Some herbs have been revered for thousands of years to help grandpa out a lot. And going back several thousand years, there's a book called The Divine Farmer's Materia Medica, or the Shenqi Bencaojing. And what this book is really famously comprised of is the bread and butter famous herbs, famous minerals, famous stones, and even famous animal parts that have been used for thousands of years, what their exact medicinal benefits are, and if there's any toxicity or if there's any risks, what those actually are. In this video, let's talk a bit about some of the herbs and formulas traditionally used for erectile dysfunction. In addition, we'll highlight one famous formula that has been studied quite a lot. Hey guys, I'm Dr. Alex Hein, board licensed doctor of acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine, and author of the health book, Master the Day. So let's jump in. Now let's talk about the case of this mysterious 20-year-old man that came into my practice. You know, for thousands of years, a little bit of a preface here, there have been practices done in Taoism that really focus more on like an esoteric sort of spirituality that involves practices like seminal retention. Basically, retaining semen and utilizing it as a sort of like an energy source to do what you have to do. Attain enlightenment, to pursue your goals, to live a longer life, right? It was historically used as like a longevity method as well. According to traditional Chinese medicine, if you can imagine, you know, ancient people called basically semen a kind of jing, or a kind of essence. And if you imagine, there's not many substances on earth that when they're inserted into a woman, they produce another human being. So it's no surprise that ancient people viewed this as something special, because it is something special. It is the seed of life. It's the seed that continues all of humanity. But there were practices revolving around this specifically because it was viewed as like the most condensed form of life force. There are practices designed around conserving this essence, and it was viewed that this sort of sexual energy was something that could be transmuted into having more vitality. What's interesting is that the converse of this is true. You know, traditional ancient doctors like a man named Sun Simiao, famous doctor, would often say that there's a certain number of times basically a man should ejaculate based on his age because he didn't want to deplete his essence and this sort of life force battery. But is this really true? You know, I actually saw a young boy, I've actually seen dozens of people like this, but in particular, one young boy came in who was about 19 or 20, and he said that he was basically having all of these erectile dysfunction issues. And throughout the process of questioning and the intake, you know, he had shared that he had a history of excessive masturbation, basically, multiple times per day for literal years. And he said that what's happening now is that basically any time he ejaculates, he gets a headache right away, he gets brain fog, he can get ringing in his ears, he can get low back pain, and on top of that, he's literally having nocturnal emissions all night long. This would not seem related if he went to a physician. They may even say he has a kind of neurosis or some kind of psychological issue. In traditional Chinese medicine, for people that overindulge in sex or masturbation, etc., they can actually develop a condition that we call kidney yang deficiency. We say that the kidneys are one of the organs that govern a lot of sexual and urinary and reproductive functions. And if you overutilize them, what will happen is basically that you've broken this organ in a way. It's a way to conceptualize it. So for example, people who overindulge in sex may develop issues like low back pain, urinary issues, erectile issues, libido issues, or like this young boy, nocturnal emissions. And so this is viewed as a kind of overutilizing that essence. You're basically draining that battery charge. And the problem is that ancient doctors viewed the kidneys as the gate of life. They literally call it Mingmen, right? The gate of life. So not only does it impact, you know, genitourinary functions involving reproduction or urination, it can also lead to, for example, premature aging. There are sometimes men occasionally that come in, they're prematurely gray and prematurely aged from this. They actually have exhausted a kind of essence that traditional Chinese medicine views as something like, who doesn't want sex, right? I mean, we're not saying be a celibate monk, but we're saying 3 times a day, for anyone is too much and will have deleterious effects on your body, not just related to the physical area of the body that it's related to. It has systemic effects as well. So this boy had actually experienced issues that should not have ordinarily happened unless you were a 60 or 70-year-old man. And he did that because he overutilized what we call the kidney battery. In this video, I want to highlight one particular formula that has interesting research on how it can help. So in this particular study, they wanted to try a formula called Shenqi kidney chi pill. Really one of the most evidence-based formulas used all over the world, like a over-the-counter medication that men can take for enlarged prostate and urinary dysfunction, for andropause, for low libido. I mean, it's literally like treated like a medication in Japan and other countries in Asia. So this particular study, they wanted to see if Shenqi kidney chi pill, would actually decrease blood pressure. As a complementary therapy, it exhibited a relatively small reduction in blood pressure, but showed a remarkable improvement on sexual function, lipid profile, and some biochemical indicators of hypertensive renal damage compared to Western medication used alone. It showed an improvement on kidney damage that wasn't shown on people taking high blood pressure medication. So it was actually protective for the kidneys, where the medication was not. But what's interesting is it showed a remarkable improvement on libido and sexual function. Now, if you aren't really sure where some of your symptoms are coming from, like for example, lots of men with low libido or erectile dysfunction, they always have other issues. And if you aren't able to find the root cause of those issues, I would highly recommend clicking the first link below this video. It's for a quiz I've put together. Basically, according to traditional Chinese medicine, this is probably the root cause of your symptoms. It's basically like a 10-page quiz I've put together. It's super helpful, super diagnostic. You basically go through and score yourself based on what symptoms you're having, and it will actually show you what organ network, according to this medicine, is most likely the cause of the problem. This is really helpful because then you actually know where to go to look for more solutions. And to make it even more helpful, we've actually hyperlinked to other videos related to those exact same symptoms. I would highly recommend checking that quiz out, going and downloading it, because it'll give you a lot of those answers there. You can also go to dralexheyne.com/quiz. Shenqi falls into the category of what we call kidney yang deficiency. So these are formulas that treat what we call the kidney function. But that includes the bladder, it includes issues involving libido, it involves issues like, for example, gaining and maintaining erections for men or prostate issues. It involves the water organs, right? Urinary and libido organs in particular. This formula is traditionally used for like a male andropause kind of scenario. This is basically the guy who gets to 50, he's having some problems with urination, the stream is not quite as strong, he's starting to wake up at night, there's some discomfort, some squeezing from the prostate enlargement, there may be a little bit of erectile dysfunction. This is a traditional formula used around middle age for men to help with those sorts of problems. So when we say the kidney yang, or the Mingmen, the gate of life, what do these esoteric concepts mean? This is sort of an ancient way of conceptualizing functional deficiencies of certain organs. So for example, a deficiency of the kidneys in Chinese medicine results in frequent clear urination, or dysfunction, urinary dysfunction of many different kinds. For example, heart yang deficiency involves issues like heart palpitations or a high heart rate. And then an issue that's like what we call spleen yang deficiency typically involves more of like the anatomical pancreas and the stomach. So this is typically an issue with like enzyme production, poor appetite, you're getting indigested easily, sometimes acid reflux, a lot of bloating and food allergies, that kind of thing. These are basically a culturally different way of describing the same symptoms that these ancient doctors observed. They had observed that when a function of an organ is compromised, a certain symptom happens. When the heart and the nervous system are weak, palpitations can occur, or a fast heart rate, or it's overstimulated. When the kidneys are weak, they get frequent urination, erectile or libido issues. This yang deficiency you could think of as like functional deficiency. Every organ in Chinese medicine is associated with a certain emotion. The kidney is one of the water organs, and so the emotion associated with the water organs is fear. So for example, when people are experiencing chronic fight or flight, they can develop problems with their nervous system, high heart rate, palpitations, panic attacks. And this is something that we interestingly call heart and kidney not communicating. It's the same pathway that you see involved with hypertension, high blood pressure. The blood pressure, the main concern is that it'll lead to a cardiovascular event involving the heart or a stroke. But what is one of the main class of medications used for that? It's diuretics. Shenqi pill, kidney chi pill, is a diuretic that typically will work just as well for diuresing the kidneys and helping flushing some of that fluid, and has other benefits as well. But that axis you're seeing, these ancient doctors knew. They had figured that out. They observed that there was this correlation here, that there was some kind of functional relationship between the heart and the kidneys. I mean, these ancient Chinese were brilliant peak civilization. They were far more advanced than the Western doctors in Europe or in the Americas. I mean, America didn't even exist for 1700 years, you know. Now, one final thing here about this kidney chi pill, or about the kidney yang quality or energy, if you want to call it that. The kidneys are what we call, my mentor Heiner Fruhoff calls them the surrender organ. And the reason for that is the kidneys, we say, store your will. When you are pushing too much in life, when you're forcing and fighting and having to struggle for success, and it's not more of like a flow or Taoist-y sort of approach, basically you're utilizing a lot of stress hormones and a lot of resources to make things happen in your life. And that depletes the kidney battery more than any other. You could view it as like depleting the adrenals if you want to think of it that way. Because the more you can surrender, the more you can let go, the more you can trust life, trust God, whatever you believe in, the more you can allow a healthy physiological response day to day. And the more that you can allow that, the more that you can keep your physiology in a calm and a relaxed place, which is probably the best thing for longevity in the first place anyway. So I hope that was helpful, you guys, on a little bit about erectile dysfunction, the kidney organ, and some of the other qualities related to longevity and living a long life. Again, don't forget, I work with a limited number of new patients every month in my clinic in Los Angeles or virtually via telemedicine. If you'd want to learn more or be a patient, just go to the link below this video. You'll see the phone number for the clinic, the email. You can also just go to dralexheyne.com/clinic and you can learn more there. And then before you go, I have another related video right here on how to increase testosterone with Chinese herbs. That's going to be a really good segue to this video. So check it out.